It's me, Egbert, once again. I'm the new owner of this station. I went out and hired the best talk radio consultant, Jeff Allen from News Talk STL, and told him to hire the worst talent he could find. Jeff did exactly as I told him. Ladies and gentlemen, here are Brad and John.
Okay, John, did you find the Jane Duker tweet, which he's replying back to Andy Banker? Did you see this?
I tweeted him, yeah, and added some comments, yeah.
Okay. This is the letter, which is dated, let me see if I can bring it up. This is dated yesterday. This is dated letter, and it's dated to Tori Schaefer. Who is she? Do you know who she is?
She is one of the attorneys for the pro-choice group that got the amendment on the ballot.
Okay, please be advised that the Secretary of State's office, pursuant to 116.120 RSMO, has rejected the above reference petition. Excuse me. Where'd that come from? I administratively certified Amendment 3 for inclusion in the ballot on the backdrop of serious concern about whether the proposed petition satisfies legal requirements for adequate notice to the public. Okay, this is yesterday. Okay, so what's going on with this today? I mean,
Go ahead, Brad.
Well, it's gone to the Supreme Court already. I mean, but why was he writing this letter yesterday?
I think I don't know. I mean, I think the rationality is if by some stroke the Supreme Court didn't rule on it, Jay could be able to say, look, I took it off the ballot.
So in other words, this is if the Supreme Court, let's say, we're not going to touch this. He essentially declared yesterday that the petition has, he said, the last sentence is, I have determined the petition is deficient. Therefore, this office has decertified the petition for the November 5th, 2024 ballot. Essentially, he's saying, I'm decertifying it. So
Yeah. And, if an asteroid were to hit Jeff City and the Supreme Court couldn't get together, I guess Jay's rationale is that he has the last word on it and it's not going to be on the ballot. I mean, there's no dispute where, no matter where you are, that him doing that just amps up the need for the Supreme Court to get together and rule on it today, as ballots are being printed today.
Okay, do you know him at all? Do you know Jay Ashcroft?
No, I haven't had a conversation with Jay Ashcroft in God knows how many years.
Do you know anybody who knows him real well?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the question. If you relay this question to whoever your person that you know.
I won't, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, John.
I'm not going to call in a favor for something that's inconsequential, but go ahead.
Is he just butthurt? Is that what this is? Because he didn't get the governorship and he's out. He's not in public office as of January whatever of 2025. Is he just butthurt now because I'm just going to be a butthead?
No, I don't think so. I think you can make that argument about the dispute he had with Governor Parson about the hemp products. But I think that if Jay had won the primary, Jay would be doing this exact same thing. I think he actually believes this. This doesn't come from a place of butthurt.
Okay, I'm not saying that I am for or against the abortion thing because I'm one of these guys that I'm like in between, I mean, and I know there's going to be some Republicans going to say, I'm never listening to that guy again, because I would be classified as a rhino by Tracy and Rick because of the fact that, you mean you're not 100% against abortion? I mean, it's a very complicated thing. And once again, as a man, I can't say, lady, I'm telling you, you can't do this.
Yes, you can, but go ahead.
Well,
I mean, we tell people what they can do with their bodies all the time, but go ahead. You could tell her that she can't do heroin, right, Pat?
Well, no, technically, it's illegal. I think it's, as far as the law is written, I think it's illegal to possess heroin. I think it's not illegal to use it.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying, and you're parsing words to make a point. Anyway, you're doing the whole thing where you say you can't tell a woman what to do with her body, but you were going to add a but there.
Well, the butt monkey kind of thing. Okay, but once again, the situation is that what Jay Ashcroft is doing, I say, is just downright illegal. Okay, they have submitted the petitions, like it or not. And once again, if you want to point fingers at what's the problem here. The problem is the Republicans have a supermajority in the House, a supermajority in the Senate, and they can't get the stupid initiative reform thing done. So it makes it tougher to amend the Missouri Constitution. And they knew this was coming. They knew there would be an abortion bill or an abortion petition that was, or an amendment that was going to end up on one of the elections. At first they talked about it might be in August. Now it's going to be in November. They knew this was coming. Okay. A bunch of Republicans, they can't get in a room down in Jefferson City and say, okay, I'm Bill Eigel and I'm like hardcore Republican and you're a squishy Republican and you're a semi-squishy Republican. But you know what? We have to come together and provide a united front that we are going to change the initiative petition laws in the state of Missouri as far as so people can't just willy-nilly just amend the Constitution. Okay, hands in. 1, 2, 3, vote. Okay, and it's done. They go, they show up in Jefferson City, and they voted in unanimously that they're going to make it. They pass a bill. It passes the House. It passes the Senate. Parsons signs it. Done. They're the blame. And what this is, to me, this is Jay Ashcroft. Like, well, hey, I don't like this bill, so I'm just going to declare it illegal, or the petition, whatever it is. I think that stinks. And I think,
first of all, I think it's great that we're now Mark Cox Radio, Brad. I mean, are you Brad Hildebrand or are you Mark Cox over there?
Well, but once again, I mean, see, the problem with this is you have a method of putting laws into effect, okay? And let's go back to the marijuana thing. You have yourself has, from your mouth, the words have come, it was a poorly written bill or whatever you want to call it.
For sure, absolutely.
Okay, poorly written, okay. The problem is that if it's a poorly written bill that somehow gets passed, they can go back into session, or next year, whenever they go back in, they can change it. They can go in. And
yes.
This happens all the time. They tweak things. There's the law of unintended consequences. Or not only that, circumstances change. What used to be, a bad thing is not necessarily such a bad thing anymore. So let's maybe notch it back a couple as far as decriminalization if it's a criminal bill or something like that. Okay, once it gets on in the Constitution, the only way it can be taken out of the Constitution is if there's another vote to essentially reverse that. And once again, the Republicans saw this coming. So you think I'm Mark Cox by going into this kind of stuff?
No, I'm giving you a hard time because you criticize them for making the same point over and over about how Republicans need to be more hardline. You're right. And Brett, we talked about this, I believe it was Friday. If Republicans, we'll use marijuana as an example. If Republicans in 2022 had the testicular fortitude to pass their own marijuana bill, then they would have had a very clean law about it. But they lacked the fortitude to do that. So we ended up with a terrible law. And your point's well taken about initiative petition changes, Brad. If Republicans use their supermajority to pass that kind of a bill, we wouldn't be facing this situation right now.
Well, the interesting thing is that whenever it sort of bothers me when you hear this, because when the Republicans and Biden's been saying this, like, hey, Donald Trump's going to destroy democracy. First off, not to be Mr. Nitpicky here, but we're not a democracy. We're a representative republic. As a matter of fact,
right, absolutely right.
When you say the Pledge of Allegiance and to the republic for which it stands, we don't say and to the democracy for which it stands. We say to the republic for which it stands. Okay, we elect these representatives, senators, congressmen on the state level, on the federal level, who quote unquote represent us. But do they really represent us? Is Bill Eigel really representative of everybody in his district in St. Charles County? I say not. Because if that were the case, then Bill Eigel, whenever he ran for office, he would win unanimously. If he was up against, let's say he was running for a third term of the Senate, I know you can't do that, but let's see, theoretically he's running for a third term in the Senate. And if he really representative of everybody in his district, his senatorial district in St. Charles County, he would win 100% of the vote, right?
Yeah, but I mean, and of course, the nature of our representative republic is that you're not going to win unanimously. You couldn't get everybody in Bill Eigel's Senate district to agree that they like the Cardinals more than the Cubs. You'd have people that were Illinois people. You'd have Brad Hildebrand that have some decades-long grudge against the baseball team over advertising. So nobody's going to get 100% in any large district.
John, I don't have a grudge against the Cardinals for advertising. I have a grudge against the Cardinals because here's what I don't like, and it's not the Cardinals, it's like anybody. When you get to the point where you get so big and things are on autopilot for you, and you're just to the point where like, hey, we're the Cardinals. We can do anything we want. Now, all of a sudden, every time I look at the Post-Dispatch over the last couple of weeks, there's some goofy, stupid article about, here's why nobody's going to the games. Can I tell you why nobody's going to the games? There's two reasons. One, the team sucks. Two, you take your life in your hands going downtown. Now,
amen. Now, I don't go there because the stadium is so old.
Well, that's three.
That's the only reason I don't go. I don't trust those fairways.
I stir the pot on Facebook all the time when these people are talking about, I don't understand what's going on with the Cardinals, and I always put, the stadium's in such bad repair. Matter of fact, on one post,
I find it hard to believe that you've gotten into any kind of altercation on Facebook. That hasn't happened at all lately, has it?
Well, yesterday it happened.
I mean, the only JC that you get an argument with is John Combest.
No, yesterday. Do we want to talk about this?
Absolutely.
No. Okay. Well, let's talk about my little tiff between myself and JC Corcoran, which has gotten to the point where
it's so funny,
and to the point where I have to admit that when he replied back to me. We'll save it to the next break. But when he replied back to me, I thought to myself, what the hell is this? Where did this come from? Okay.
Hey, but I'm going to U-Pod. I'm going to underpromise and overdeliver, and I'm going to say that some people might be mildly amused by the interaction that Brad had with a longtime peer, right? A longtime peer of yours.
Not according to him. I'm dog poo-poo, and he's caviar.
Well, he didn't say that in what I saw. He absolutely did not. You're reading into that. But we'll talk about it in C Block.
He might as well. Okay. I want to address something that I think is gotten a lot of attention. The Tyreek Hill traffic stop down in Miami.
Yes, in Miami, yeah.
Okay. Have you seen the video on this? The traffic, the body cam video?
Yes, I haven't watched. Now, here, to be fair, Brad, I haven't watched the clip from beginning to the end, but I've seen multiple clips, like short clips, like 30-second clips on Twitter, on X. So explain it to people.
Okay. Tyreek Hill was on his way to play. Hold on, I can clear my voice. Playing the game Sunday. He's driving his Lamborghini, and apparently he committed some traffic violation or something like that, and he gets pulled over by not one, but two, I guess they're Miami-Dade motorcycle police officers, okay? Now, first off, I will say this up front. Having been pulled over just last week, and once again, my oldest son, Brett, who for a while worked with a guy who was a very high-end gun guy who taught, not only did he teach the basic, concealed carry course, but he also taught advanced rifle and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things they taught was how to behave during a traffic stop, okay? So Tyreek Hill flunked, okay? And a lot of what happened to him, I'm not going to say is his own fault, but once again, if you walk into a store and you have a problem with something you bought in that store, and you storm into the store and you start yelling and screaming, right away, that manager's going to be in defense mode. He's going, but if you go in and you go, sir, you know what? I bought this yesterday. And when I got home, I realized that there's a rip right here. You know what? I know you're a high-end store, and I know you don't want to have this kind of, situation happen. So you won't have any problem with me exchanging this, or maybe just give me a full refund. Would you, sir? And the guy's going to say, of course not, sir. We'll be more than happy to take care of that. Okay. Problem number one: Tyreek Hill doesn't roll down his window, and the cop knocks on the window. Problem number two, Tyreek Hill's windows are very deeply tinted, okay? And once again, in most states, like they're in the state of Missouri, there's a law about, matter of fact, some of the cops actually carry this little, you ever seen this little thing, this little gizmo?
Yeah, they hold it up to the window to measure the tint.
Tint level, okay. So he's off to the bad start right away, okay? But then what happens is, then the cop gets a little bit defensive, and Tyreek Hill rolls down the window, and there's some discussion about a seatbelt and stuff like that. And then essentially Tyreek Hill rolls the window back up again. Once again, not the smart thing to do, and the cops get a little bit upset, and they open up the door, and they pull him out of the car, okay? Once again, if Tyreek Hill would have done what my son taught me, pulls up, stops, rolls down the window, keys on the dashboard, hands on the steering wheel, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, sir. Let me reach and get my wallet. I'm reaching back in my back pocket. I'm reaching back right now. Yes, sir. Here's my insurance. Yes, sir. Here's my registration. Thank you, sir. I'll see you later. I've got a football game to be in. None of this would have happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
I think so. But I also think too, Brad, at a certain point, we certainly incentivize athletes in an era of body cams. I think we just incentivize athletes to act tough. And what would happen in Tyreek Hill's mind if he was pulled over and he acquiesced to all the police interrogations and said from the Brad Hildebrand playbook, yes, sir, do you mind if I reach and grab my insurance? I'm going to reach in my center console and grab my wallet. People would be like, oh, he a punk, man. Why he let the police do him like that?
Well,
so he's going to act out for the body cams.
I don't see. I hear what you're saying to a certain extent. I know exactly what you're saying. But once again, it's sort of like, if you let's say you're working in your garage and you got your lawnmower there and you spill some gasoline and let's say one of your kids comes in the garage at the same time you spill the gasoline on the floor, and he turns off the light in the garage, and you go, oh my God, I can't see where I spilled that gasoline. Oh, I got my lighter here in my pocket. Let me just flip my Bic and find out where that gasoline spill is. Once again, you're asking for it. You know what I'm saying? And now,
I know exactly what you mean. But let me interrupt, Brad. Here's the thing: Tyreek Hill is going to face no consequences from his behavior.
Well, here's the other problem. The other problem is they can't say it's because he's black, because if you watch the video, it sounds as though because the cop that pulls him over has an accent, and he looks to be, the other two cops also have somewhat accents, and they look to be Latinos. So,
now, Brad, in the video, one of the police officers says, "Hey, we're people of color too, so it doesn't have to do with race."
Exactly. I mean,
that's his verbatim quote.
I mean, once again, it's not like it's not like the stereotypical white sheriff in the middle of Oklahoma. Hey, boy, you're in a heap of trouble, boy. It's not like that. It's three Latino dudes who are, motorcycle officers. And let's go back to one of my favorite all-time TV shows, Chips. Once again, it's Eric Estrada riding his Kawasaki 1000. Eric Estrada being a person of color. He's pulling over a black dude. Okay, you're in the same league. You're on the same page. You know what I mean? But
yeah. And, I got to say, I hardly follow NFL anymore. I stopped watching. I mentioned it before. After the whole Black Lives Matter thing, all the anti-American stuff was so repulsive to me that I just stopped watching football. But casually as I watch, I like Tyreek Hill. I liked him when he played for the Chiefs. I think he's got a cool story. Seems like a cool guy. And then you see this and you're like, oh, painful.
Okay, but here's the big thing. Just like the deal with Justin Timberlake, this guy's making gonzo bucks. He's making what? 9 figures? No, it's
a ton of money. He's making how much it is.
He's making 8 figures. Okay, he's not making 7, which would be like a million. He's making 8 figures, which would put him in like the double-digit millions. Okay. Get a damn driver. Get somebody.
But no, let me push back, Brad. If you have a driver, what kind of car was he in a Lamborghini?
Yeah, he's in a Lamborghini because it has.
So you're not gonna, if you have a Lamborghini, you're not gonna have it. That defeats the purpose, doesn't it, Brad?
Yeah, but once again, there comes a point. First off, if you've ever driven a Lamborghini, and I have, they are not practical daily driver cars.
I can't imagine.
They're just not. Matter of fact, one of the interesting things is I saw a video just over the weekend about a guy who was driving a Lamborghini. A matter of fact, it's an interesting story. It's the interesting story of the guy who founded, I don't know if you know the story or not. Matter of fact, something we could talk about maybe next break. The guy who founded Chick-fil-A, in his later years, he started collecting cars Do you know this story about him?
Hey, I didn't know that at all.
And
no.
he had this huge car collection, and one of the cars was a Lamborghini Countach, which some people will say is the most desirable Lamborghini ever made. And his grandson is doing this thing talking about how we'd go to my grandpa's house and he'd let us drive some of the cars. And normally he'd only let us drive like the Mazda Miatas and things like that. But one time we got to drive the Lamborghini Countach, and he, once again, it's a stick, and he complained about how for the next day his left leg was sore because typically, this is maybe the newer Lamborghinis are better than, but typically they have extremely tight clutches. I mean, you got to be like a bodybuilder to push that clutch clutch pedal to the floor. Once again, they're not a daily driver. Can you imagine, like, if you're stuck in traffic on 270 and it's stop and go traffic, and you're constantly putting the clutch in? I mean, once again, it's not that kind of a car. So I get what you're saying. He's a baller. He's a big-time NFL guy.
Yeah.
He's got to drive his Lambo to the game. No, he doesn't. Sit in the back seat of a Maybach or something like that. Or get like a Bentley, a stretch Bentley or something like that. Or I mean, hell, get in the back of a Chevy Suburban. You know what I mean? And hey, drop me off at the players' gate. Okay, thanks. Be back when the game's over. See you. Bye. You know what I mean?
And you can't even test drive luxury cars anymore because of what happened off of 270 a few years ago with the Mercedes. You hear that story?
Is this for
a guy
real?
completely blew out the engine? Some jerk was like, "Oh, I just want to test drive. I made a little money. I sold some radio stations. I sold some companies. I got a lot of cash. I want a flashy vehicle. Can I test drive this? Let me ruin it for you."
John's making.
You hear
fun.
that story, Brad?
John's making fun of me again. Okay. Next break, we'll talk about J.C. Corcoran. Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?